As a contractor, I don't pay for materials I don't use. So why would I pay for stuff I don't need in my mobile plan? That's why my Biz plan from Verizon Business is so perfect. Now I can choose exactly what I want, and I only pay for what I need.
Right now, with my Biz plan, get our best price, as low as $25 a line. Visit Verizon.com/business to get started today. New lines only. Price per month with 5+ lines. Includes auto pay and paper-free billing and promotional discounts. Taxes, fees, economic adjustment charge. Applicable add-ons, prices, and terms apply. Guarantee applies to base monthly rate and stated discounts only. Add-on prices additional. Offers in March 31st, 2026.
It's football season, and you can now get almost anything you need for game day delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a running back delivered, but you can get baby back ribs delivered. A strong defense? No. A strong deodorant? Yes. A six-pack of abs? Nope. Six-pack of beer? Yes. Get almost anything for game day delivered with Uber Eats, official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Alcohol 21 plus and in select cities. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
This is Off the Record.
Hello and welcome back to Off the Record. I am Rebecca Larson, and once again, I am joined by my fearless co-host, Amy McElroy. Welcome.
Hello.
You're fearless. You know why? Because you put up with me every week.
Well, you put up with me too, so, you know, both as bad as each other.
That's right. This is episode 2. I'm so excited. Episode 1 went over really well. Everybody was really excited about the Anne Boleyn episode, and it seems like the consensus is that her becoming a duchess would have been the best choice for her.
Ah, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, really, if we both think about it, I think honestly, if she couldn't become queen, duchess would definitely be the right choice for her.
Well, yeah, at least she wouldn't have had her head chopped off. No.
There is that.
Yeah. So, best of both worlds, I guess.
Yes, yeah. So I know last episode we talked about kind of coming back and saying what everybody thought, and that was the consensus. Anne is a duchess.
I did see some comments. I think it's interesting that everybody has a different take. So,
Yeah.
interesting to see what other people thought other than just you and I. So
I know, right? It's so easy just to be like, okay, well, these are our opinions, but we do love to hear other people's opinions on things. And sometimes it gives us a little bit of insight or perspective if somebody comes at us with a totally different idea. And then we can,
we could have an opinion one day and read somebody else's and why they think like that, and our opinion changes. So
that's right.
Always good to know others' opinions.
That's right. I think it's important to know other people's opinions and to discuss them. Okay, so today we're doing another What If episode because they're just so fun, right? Today we're going to look at what if, and I don't even know how I'm going to title this one, but we're looking at deaths. But in particular, that's the hardest part of doing a podcast, let me tell you, is figuring out a title that's going to draw people in. So today we're looking at deaths, but in particular, deaths of heirs to the throne, I think is probably what if they had lived? And so, of course, I feel like we have to start with the most obvious one. What if Arthur Tudor, son of Henry VII and Elizabeth of York, had lived? That would have really changed history, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. I think we know that Arthur was taking his kingship training, if we want to call it that, seriously. So he was out in the Welsh marches, he was being taught how to govern. So although Henry did get a bit of that, nothing compared to what Arthur was taught, I think he was definitely the more sensible sibling. And obviously we don't know what would have happened when Henry VII died. It could have been a situation where Arthur finds out he's got all of this money, because I know people say that Henry VII was a miser. I don't believe he was. I think he was very smart with money, and looked after his treasury very, very well. So it could have been a case of Arthur got excited by all of this money and kind of went into party mode. He's had a strict upbringing in comparison to Henry. However, I do think that he was the sensible one. So I think there would have, obviously, he would have been young. There would have still been the masks and the pageants and stuff that Henry VIII loved. And obviously, Henry VIII still would have been around. So it's not as if it's going to be a boring court. It still would have been a young court.
Yeah.
So I just don't think it'd be to the extent that it was with Henry. But I also think that he would have took the reins himself. So obviously Henry did eventually, but we all know that Wolsey did a lot of work for him.
Mhm.
And I don't think Arthur would have done that. I think Arthur would have done much of it himself. And obviously he had Catherine to guide him, who we know was an excellent role model.
Yeah.
But I think when you put Arthur and Henry next to each other, Arthur probably wouldn't have needed as much guidance as Henry did from Catherine. So I think they would have been the ultimate power couple. Like, both were brought up to be king and queen.
Yeah.
Both had had that training. Yes, Catherine still would have brought the knowledge of a foreign court and diplomacy and that kind of stuff, but I think they would have been an epic couple if he'd have lived. So, but I think you've also got the flip side of we'd never have Mary the First, we'd never have Edward or Elizabeth.
Right.
There are downsides because I think each of them were brilliant monarchs in their own rights.
Yeah. Here's something I thought about that I don't know if you had even considered this. And I didn't want to tell you before we started recording. So I was like, I thought of this like 20 minutes before we got on
You
here.
only do this because you know my face can't hide reactions.
I love it. Okay. So if Arthur had lived, would Elizabeth of York have lived too? Because she wouldn't have felt the need to get pregnant again.
Ooh.
Right? I was thinking about that a lot. And if she had lived, how would that have changed things? Even if she had survived Henry VII, Arthur became king. Here she is, the queen mother with Arthur and Katherine of Aragon. Would she have been the guiding force instead of Margaret Beaufort, maybe? Like, I don't know.
I think she probably would have, because I think Margaret Beaufort would have died anyway, let's face it. She didn't last long after Henry VII died. But I think she would have been a very kind mother-in-law to Catherine. I think that would have been a good relationship for Catherine and Mary as well, because obviously when Elizabeth died, Mary was kind of left on her own. Margaret had gone off to Scotland, so I think it would have been a good relationship to have Elizabeth of York there. But that is interesting because you're right. Like, they were left with just Henry as the male heir. So, and I know this sounds really horrible, but in a way, to put it totally bluntly, so I apologize if I offend anyone, she ultimately died for nothing.
Right.
Because she gave birth to Catherine, Elizabeth died, and then Catherine died. So, it was for nothing. And it's sad because you can see why they wanted to keep trying, because it was quite dangerous to only have one male heir. But you're right, would she have put herself through that if Arthur had lived?
Yeah. I know. This is something we could sit and really think about a long time. I'm sure.
Oh, that makes me sad because I love Elizabeth of York.
I do too. I really like her too.
Yeah.
I feel like she's so underrated. And she just, she just wanted to have this strong family claim. She was the first Tudor queen consort. So It was like her
Yeah,
legacy she was leaving behind.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So what if she had lived? I do wonder too, when we talk about if Arthur had lived, and obviously Henry, future Henry VIII, had lived, who would Henry have been betrothed to? Would they have married him to some English noblewoman, or what would they
I
have done?
think they'd have still married him off within Europe because it's an alliance, isn't it? So you've got Margaret marrying into Scotland. Arthur had obviously married into Spain. Mary was meant to marry Charles, but ended up marrying Louis. Um, which is another thing, because would she have married Charles if Arthur was king?
Right.
Oh God. Going
It
off on
just,
a tangent.
I
I'll go
know.
back to the first bit. So I think they would have found another alliance. So, and that could have been one of Louis's daughters.
Yeah.
So, it could have been that he married either Claude or Renee, who knows, or one
Right.
of Charles's sisters.
Yeah.
But I do think it would have been a European princess to make that alliance because then Henry VII was not stupid. He knew that these alliances were really important. And, he absolutely smashed it with marrying Arthur to Catherine in the first place. Like, that was an excellent decision for Henry. So, yeah, I think it would have been a European princess for him.
That immediately makes me think, like, what if Arthur had not been betrothed to Katherine of Aragon? That's like another episode, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, we could do a whole episode on that
Yeah,
one.
that could be
Oh,
the marriage edition part two.
yes, yes,
We'll save that one, you guys. We can't go into that.
yeah.
This is the hardest part about doing the what ifs because it snowballs and then you start thinking about the broader picture and you want to go in 16 different directions. But the hardest part is trying to keep this focused
Yeah.
so that we don't veer off in too many different ways. One of the other things that I was kind of thinking about too, obviously, if Arthur had lived, would there have been a break from Rome? And I'm curious to ask you this because of your study on the humanist movement. Do you think it was inevitable that the break from Rome was coming? Or do you think because he lived and he was married to Catherine of Aragon, that England may have stayed Catholic?
I think the humanist aspect would have happened anyway. So even Henry VII was, he favoured new learning. You can see that in the tutors that he brought in for his own kids. So I think that aspect would have happened. Their views on religion, however, um, I think England would have been more tolerant of different religious views, but I don't think they would have broke with Rome
Mm.
because there's no way you can stop what Martin Luther was doing and things like that. Like Henry wasn't affected by that on the whole. Well, he originally wrote against him, so he changed his mind to get what he wants, but that was still happening regardless of what was going on with Henry, Catherine, and Anne. So I think no, they probably wouldn't have broke with Rome, but I still think the Protestant, the reforming side would have been around regardless. Like we know some of the courtiers had reformist beliefs. That still would have happened. They didn't believe what they believed because of Henry wanting to divorce Catherine. It was because of what they'd read. And that was coming from other areas of Europe. So I think there probably would have been more tolerance. Um, but no, I don't think there would have been a break completely.
Yeah, there's so many things to think about when we think about if Arthur had lived. But I think to me, those were the biggest things. I don't know if there were any thoughts that you had that maybe I hadn't brought up.
I think there's always one thing that I always say about what would Henry have done? Like, would he have gone into the church? No. And I don't like it when I see something that says Henry as a second son was intended for the church.
Yeah.
Based on what? It just because he was a second son doesn't mean that he was destined for the church. Like, I think Henry would have ended up basically leading the English army. That's what I think he would have done.
Oh.
We know that he loved jousting, he loved ships, all of that kind of stuff. So I think Arthur would have took on the ruling, boring stuff. Henry would have done the adventurous side of defending the country on behalf of his brother. I think that's what would have happened.
Arthur was like the administrative role, and Henry was like the fun marketing role.
Yes, yes, there we go. That's a perfect way of saying it.
Yeah.
I think that's what Henry would have done. So I think he still would have. There's no reason for him not to still love ships, jousting, that kind of stuff. So yeah.
I think sometimes too, like if you go into a conspiratorial mind here, would Henry have been so jealous that his brother was king that he would have tried to have him murdered so that he could become king?
No.
Oh, I immediately went like, that's a possibility. He could have done that too.
I would say no, because I think, he was brought up in a royal nursery with his sisters. I think people are going to hate me for this, but I think Henry did have a kindness to him, at least when he was young. I don't think we can compare Henry to George of Clarence somehow.
Yeah, okay.
No, I don't think he had that in him. I think he probably would have been jealous, yeah. Your brother's the king, but I think he still would have had a very, very good life, and he was never expecting to be king. So I think as long as he had money and palaces and that kind of stuff, he'd have been all right. And, some money to build more ships and whatever. He'd have been happy.
I think like pre-pubescent Henry, he was
Yes.
all right. He was all right.
Yeah.
It's once he went through puberty, that's when everything changed.
Yeah, young Henry was, he was kind
Yeah. I wonder if
and fun.
I wonder if he would have still had a crush on his sister-in-law, Katherine of Aragon.
Probably.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah, how things would have changed. Yeah, this is one that you could really sit and think about a lot. And I'm sure we're not the first ones to talk about this, but
No, and you'd obviously not have all the six wives things. Like, I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way. Like, I think the six wives are all incredible in their own ways.
yeah.
But we wouldn't even have that.
Right.
Well, I'd hope not. If he wasn't king, I would hope he didn't do that. So
I also wonder if Arthur would have been so gung-ho on conquering France like Henry was. Would he have really felt that need to bring France into the English fold like their predecessors?
I don't know. I think he possibly could have been pushed, depending on what his council thought about the whole thing. But I do think he would have been more reserved with the treasury.
Hmm.
Whereas obviously Henry was pretty much, I don't care where the money comes from. Give me the money to go and invade France. Like,
Yeah.
he wasn't bothered. So I think Arthur would have been more reluctant because of the finance side. I think he was a bit more sensible.
Well, he was raised to be king, so he understood the finances, and Henry was like, "Woo, let's party."
Yeah.
Like he was more like spoiled.
married Henry into France instead.
Yeah.
And then it's problem solved, isn't it?
Yes, for
Because
sure.
when Louis pops his clogs, Henry would have been King of France through his marriage.
That was such an English phrase that you just used. What did you say? Pops his
Pops his
clog?
clogs.
I've never heard that before. I knew what you meant, but I love it. I am.
There we go. There's a question. Does everybody who's listening know what that means?
Yeah.
I've just baffled everyone.
Yeah, I would have said something like kick the bucket.
I don't know what that means too.
Okay, see? Yeah. Pops his clogs. I love it. I love it. I'm gonna have to make t-shirts now that say that. I'm sorry, guys. I can't help it. When I hear some of these British phrases, I can't help but like latch on to them.
There we go.
Amy's like, oh my
You
gosh.
could call this episode Popping of Clogs. Genius. Please don't.
Oh, please don't. She's like, please, please. But you can make the t-shirts.
Yeah, can make the t-shirt.
That's so fun. I actually just designed some t-shirts with all the historical nicknames that Dr. Emma and I have given people. And I'm going to be putting that out very soon so people
Oh,
can
that's
see it.
amazing.
Yeah, I can't wait to share that. Like, I love giving people historical nicknames. So, and the one that I came up with on the show with you was Cardinal Wolsey being called the cleaner.
Yeah.
So that is specific to Off the Record. Cardinal Wolsey, the
Ah.
cleaner. All right,
That's
so
great.
we've discussed Arthur. Was there anything else
Yes.
that you wanted to cover on Arthur, or do you think we covered most of the bases?
I think we've covered most things, unless other people have got ideas. We can
Yes.
pick them up in another episode.
Yeah, I love it. Like, share your thoughts,
Yeah.
your what ifs part of this too. Okay, so the next one that I really wanted to talk about is one, we just celebrated his birth not very long ago. We'd be looking at Henry, Duke of Cornwall, the son of Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon. So now we're in real life scenario. Arthur did die. Elizabeth of York did die. Henry becomes king in 1509 after his father dies. He marries Catherine of Aragon. And on New Year's Day in 1511, she gives birth to a son who, of course, they named Henry. That was a big deal.
As did everybody else name their sons Henry.
Yeah, yeah. This is one of the things that I find so interesting as a genealogist as well, is naming. And traditionally, even if we set royalty aside, generally how it would go is the firstborn son would be named after the paternal grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
The second-born son would be named after the maternal grandfather. And so there was always that I don't know what the word I'm thinking of, tradition, maybe. So when it comes to royalty, it was so common for people to name their sons after whoever the ruler was at the time, wasn't it?
Yes.
So naming your son Henry when...
Although in that case, they also did name him after his paternal grandfather.
That's true. Yes.
And then Edward was named after his... No, it wasn't. I was going to say it's his great-great-grandfather on the maternal side, isn't it?
Yeah, but still, you still have those family names that stick through.
Yeah.
I feel like that changed a few generations ago, modern day. Like it used to still be the case where people would name their children after their grandparents that way. And now it's not like that anymore. I feel like people are like, I want to name my kid whatever I want to name him. I might even make up a name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, okay, so they got off track there. They had a son. They named him Henry.
Yeah.
Created him Duke of Cornwall.
Yeah.
He was going to be important. They were like,
absolutely.
This is the heir. Catherine did her job, right?
And I think his birth and death changed everything.
It did. Yeah. He only lived.
Especially his death.
Oh my gosh.
I think there is absolutely, and I could be wrong because I've never researched this specifically, But I do not believe for a second that he would have done what he did to Catherine if Henry had lived.
Yeah. Let's talk about this because I feel like when we talk about Henry VIII and heirs, it's always brought up that he only really had one surviving living, one living child, one that survived adulthood. Let's say it that way, with his first three wives. If Catherine had had Henry, Duke of Cornwall, and he had lived, maybe they would not have had any more children that lived. So then there they are with one heir. Would Henry have been satisfied having only one male heir?
I don't think he'd have been satisfied, but to go to the extent that he did, I don't think he would have done that because he's then in a position of what does he do? If he annuls that marriage, which is what he did, he didn't divorce her, he annulled the marriage. That means it never existed, which means Henry is then illegitimate.
Yes.
He's not going to do that to his live heir, who's a male, which is what he always wanted.
Yeah.
Now, the alternative is he could have, asked her to go in a nunnery or whatever. We know Catherine would have said no to that.
Mm-hmm.
But really, you're stuck. You've got no alternative. You can then legitimize him, but what's the point? Because then you're legitimizing offspring of a marriage that you've said didn't happen.
Yes, it's
So,
problematic.
there's no strong argument for it.
No.
So I think he wouldn't have been completely satisfied, and I think he would have wanted more children, but I don't think he'd have done what he did do because ultimately it would have destroyed his son's status. And then what happens with his son? Because, Henry did live till a fair age.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really want your son hating you because of what you did to his mum?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Your son that could probably rally the nobility around him because you're a bit of an arse.
Right. Yes.
So I don't know. I mean, obviously Henry's Henry. He probably wouldn't think like that. He'd probably think everybody still adores him. But we also know that he did care about what people thought of him. So I don't know if he'd want his own son thinking badly of him. I know he didn't care what Mary and Elizabeth thought, but they were
Right.
females. I'm
Right.
not saying he was right, by the way. I'm just saying they were females.
Yeah.
But I can't see him wanting to do that when he's got a male, especially if that male is growing up seemingly healthy.
Right.
I think he'd just have to live with the fact that he's only got one son.
Mm. Yeah, and I'm thinking about this too. So young Henry was born in 1511. Henry VIII died in 1547. So he would have come to the throne in his 30s. He would have been much older than Henry VIII was when he came to the throne. It does make you wonder what kind of king he might have been. There's so many variables in there that would determine that, really.
And I think the nobility would have supported that because I know it sounds quite harsh to say, but nobody likes a child monarch because there's always somebody else behind pulling the strings until they're old enough. So a man coming to the throne in their 30s is going to know exactly what their father did that, pleased or annoyed people, how everything works, how the treasury works. They'll know all of that. They won't need to be taught anything. So it's a strong, especially if they're based on their father, because obviously we know when Henry was young, he was very, very athletic.
Mm-hmm.
If he'd have grew up like him, then I think that's a king that the nobility definitely would have supported.
Oh, I
So,
wonder what he would have looked like. That's a interesting. I'll have to see if I can do some AI work on what the child of Henry VIII, male child of Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon would have looked like. Would he?
I'd probably guess tall, because we know Henry was
Yeah.
tall, and we know Edward the Fourth was tall.
Yes. Red hair, more than
Red
likely.
hair, yeah.
Yeah. Blue eyes.
Hmm.
Yeah. So basically another Henry VIII.
Yeah, and I think Henry would have put him through his paces when he was young as well, as in jousting, archery, all of that kind of stuff. I think he would have, even if he didn't like it, I think he would have been forced to be that sporty prince like Henry was when he was younger.
I wonder if let's consider Henry and Catherine were able to have more children, and Henry, Duke of Cornwall, is the oldest, and obviously the heir. I wonder if he would have had a less serious upbringing than Arthur had because of who his father was.
About every summer, we meet for a trip.
Vacation has officially begun on Netflix.
To best enjoy your trip, we suggest the following itinerary.
I say we just wing it.
Wing it.
See where the wind takes us.
From best-selling author Emily Henry
Are you guys like a thing? Oh, no, we're just friends. Platonic travel companions.
comes your next favorite rom-com.
Who wants to go skinny dipping? Alex does.
Vacation Alex!
I love it when you get weird.
People We Meet on Vacation, now playing on Netflix. Rated PG-13, may be inappropriate for children under 13.
New Year, same extra value meals at McDonald's. So now get 2 snack wraps, plus fries, and a medium soft drink for just $8.
For limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Hawaii, Alaska, and California, and for delivery.
Oh, that's a good question. I'd say partly because I think Henry obviously didn't have the same upbringing that Arthur had. And he basically had to spend time. I say that sounds quite harsh. When Arthur died, he was basically then took under the wing of his dad to learn what he could before his dad died. And I don't think Henry enjoyed that time. So part of me would say yes, but then the other part would say there is no way in hell Catherine would allow that because I think she would want her son prepared.
Yeah.
Like she tried to prepare Mary for the inevitable, basically. But I think she would have wanted that proper training put in place. So I think, yeah, a bit more relaxed, but I think Catherine probably would have gotten her way in, no, he needs proper training in how to rule a kingdom, not just let's go and have fun jousting.
She would have made sure that he had the best tutors.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, he would have been the most Renaissance prince ever.
Yeah. I think she probably would have wanted him to spend a period of time at like Ludlow and, you know, do it that way like Arthur did. So I think, you know, I can't see Henry completely objecting to it. I think he'd have been a bit more lenient in terms of the school books versus jousting, but I think he would have understood the fact that his son needs to learn.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think he would have had a very good upbringing.
So many things to think about. One of the other things that crossed my mind is if Henry, I'm just going to keep saying his full title because I don't want to confuse people with all the Henrys. If Henry, Duke of Cornwall, had lived, then we have to look at who would he have been betrothed to. And immediately in my head, I thought, well, his mother is Katherine of Aragon. She is still going to want to keep a Spanish alliance, just like she did with Mary. So then I started doing a little bit of research and I was like, who could he have been married to that would have been a similar age? And I think I came up with an answer. So it's possible. And in this situation, she would have been a few years older than him, which, Catherine was older than Henry VIII. But I think it's possible that they would have betrothed him to Catherine of Spain, who was born in 1507 and was the daughter of Juana and crybaby Philip. I think it's possible because she later married her first cousin, John III of Portugal. So no different, just another first cousin in a different country.
I think that's a good shout. Because, you're keeping the alliance going.
Yep. Yeah.
The only thing is, oh no, actually, because you would have still had Charles. I was going to say, I don't know if Spain would want that because it's a boy, isn't it, marrying in, so they get.
Oh, that's true.
But as long as Charles was around, you're okay, because Henry of Cornwall wouldn't have got his Charles's titles. This is getting very confusing. Charles's titles, because obviously Charles was a boy, so he was the heir. So
I'm glad you brought that up because I hadn't considered the fact that it's different when a male is marrying into the empire, basically.
Well, that's essentially how Francis ended up King of France, isn't it? Because France didn't allow for a female to rule in her own right, even though obviously it would have been Claude who ended up queen anyway.
Yeah.
So
let's think about that, huh? We have Henry VIII, Katherine of Aragon. Their son, Henry, Duke of Cornwall, marries Katherine of Aragon's niece, another Catherine. So we have two Henry and Catherines.
Well, at least all the H's and K's could remain,
That's true. Good point. Saving money, which, Henry VII probably would have approved of, even though we just said. Yeah, think about that. Another Spanish alliance, hold on to. I just really think Catherine would have wanted that. She would have wanted to hold on to that alliance with Spain.
And it's a good alliance. Do you know what I mean? It's like the sister to who would become the Holy Roman Emperor.
Yeah.
That's you're pretty safe, aren't you? You haven't got any. Well, I suppose you can't really say that because Margaret married into Scotland and Scotland's still invaded. But you'd like to think that if you're married to the sister of the emperor, that he's not going to invade you.
Yeah. The one thing, of course, that you and I have to our advantage is we're looking back at the history that we already know.
Yes.
At the time they were living in it, they didn't know what the outcome was going to be. We have the advantage of going, well, we know how this all played out.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I think that's what makes it fun for us to be able to do the what ifs, is because we know what the outcome was. Now it's like choose your own adventure books. I don't know if you remember those. Where you get to, oh my gosh, those were like the best. I know there's people right now listening who come from the same generation as me who they're like, I loved those books, because there would be a chapter. And then at the end of the chapter, you could choose what direction your character goes next. And I think if I remember correctly, you were given like a couple of options, and then you choose the option and flip to that page. And then you could read choose your own adventure.
I don't think I've ever even heard of these.
Oh my gosh. I don't think
maybe we didn't have them in England. I'll have to look at it.
Yeah, for sure. If you guys know what I'm talking about, please say something in the comments, because I know I'm not alone in the choose your own adventure. This, when I think back, I feel like I was probably in elementary school, like, I don't know, 5th or 6th grade. So I would have been like 11 or 12 years old. And this was in the 80s sometime.
They do sound fun though, so I will have a look if we had them, or if anybody else knows, did we have them in England?
Yeah. Oh, best books ever. Like, it makes me want to go read it. I don't know why they don't do adult versions of them now.
They could do that with historical fiction, couldn't they? So you can choose what happens next.
You can use our what if episodes as an example of what ifs if you choose to. Just give us credits. That's all. That's
all the tangents. With them.
That's right. Choose your own adventure. I think one of the other things that we have to consider too is if Henry, Duke of Cornwall, had lived, Anne Boleyn would have been a non-issue, right?
Yeah.
Like, what would her time have looked like instead? Would she still have gone abroad to study? Probably, right?
Yeah, I think she probably would, because I think, that was it was a good decision for Thomas Boleyn to do that for his daughters. So I think, that still would have happened.
Yeah. And when she came back, Henry, Duke of Cornwall, would have been, what, 10, 11, 12? He would have been old enough that hopefully at that point, Henry VIII wouldn't have been looking for another lady. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's the difficult one. So more than likely, we go back to the what if Anne had never married Henry VIII then?
Or even, would she have come back? Because, obviously she didn't come back for Henry, but if Henry, Duke of Cornwall, was around, would things at court have been different?
Yeah.
So would everybody that was in their roles at that time be in those same roles? We don't know what the answer is to that. So chances are many of them would be, because, it all revolved around Henry. So she was recalled back, nothing to do with Henry. So the chances are she probably still would have come back. But what if they hadn't been in that position? Would she have even come back? Would she have married somebody in France?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Otherwise, she would have come back and likely served Katherine of Aragon until Catherine died, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think and that's a possibility. But I had to bring that up because, of course, when you talk about Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon, you have to bring up Anne Boleyn because she was the third wheel in that relationship.
But then it also means we'd have no Edward, no Elizabeth.
Yes. So Henry, Duke of Cornwall, and his wife, Catherine of Spain, best have been getting on and having some male heirs.
Yeah. Yes.
And what if they couldn't have male heirs? What if they only had daughters? Then who would the first queen regnant of England have been? We don't know. Maybe she would have been named Catherine. There seems to be a pattern here. They're like, let's name her. Or maybe they would have named her Juana. Probably not.
No, I think they would have gone with Catherine.
Yeah.
Or Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Or Isabella. Yeah.
Yeah. They definitely would have kept it anglicized, I think.
Yeah, I think maybe Elizabeth after Elizabeth of York.
Yeah. And I think the Anglo version of Isabel is Elizabeth, so.
Oh, there we go then.
Yeah, so there.
Two birds with one stone.
That's right. It probably would have been Elizabeth now that you say that. Yeah, so how fascinating. If Henry, Duke of Cornwall had lived, England would look very different today.
Yes, hugely different.
Yeah, and again,
I'd be interested to know if anybody that's watching or listening has any other thoughts on who he could possibly have married.
Yeah. And give us an argument. I need more than just throwing out a name. You need to tell me why you believe that would have been a good choice, just like I did. Obviously, maybe there's another Spanish lady that would have been a good choice that I just overlooked. I mean, Catherine had a lot of siblings, so
yes,
this was the first one that I noticed that was close in age to Henry, Duke of Cornwall.
And there was obviously other countries as well. It doesn't have to be a princess. Could have been a duchess somewhere.
That's true. But they probably would have preferred a princess.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe it could have been a cousin up in Scotland.
Uh-huh. Yes.
But, and then we could look at, then Henry VIII would have got what he wanted with the rough wooing, basically, just earlier.
Yeah.
That's another idea. Yeah. What year was, I was just trying to think. No. Like, I was going to say, what year was Margaret Douglas born? But that was much, much later. She would have been way too young for
I
him.
think she would have been too young, wouldn't she? Because
Yeah.
she was, um, oh no,
I know, right? Now
I
I feel
don't
it.
know. She wouldn't have been that far off. She would have been younger than him, but
Oh, yeah. She was
she
born
was,
in,
she was in Mary's household at one point, so she's can't be that far off.
no, I just looked it up. And if it's right, it said 1515. So that would work,
Yeah,
you know.
there we go.
Another gross connection. Can we say that? Marrying your first cousin. And we have to remember Margaret Douglas's father was not James the Fourth, but his mom was Margaret Tudor, a princess of England. So, yeah. So many what ifs, so many different. Oh my gosh, you guys. Okay. Are you ready to move on to the next one?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, I feel like this one maybe we've talked about a little bit before. But I just think this is a fun one to think about is Henry Fitzroy.
Oh, yes.
So if we go now, Arthur died. Henry, Duke of Cornwall, died.
Okay.
Henry VIII is still married to Catherine of Aragon. They still, they haven't had a living son. Henry veers off with Bessie Blount and has a son, Henry Fitzroy, who like pretty much immediately is titled Duke of Richmond and Somerset, which is an amazing title. And would you really give that to somebody who you're not going to use in a very important way in the future? I just have always felt like there were plans to make him heir.
I don't know if he planned to make him heir or if he planned that he would be self-sufficient, i.e. the income from the dukedom. That's all he needed to do. So, he doesn't need to keep forking out. He can just rely on that income. But at the same time, we know that he didn't just install him as a duke and then walk away. He was part of his life. So, yeah.
Didn't he make Henry Fitzroy something in Ireland? Lieutenant governor or
lieutenant.
Something?
I think it was lieutenant. I think so.
Some type of official title up there to make it seem like he was in charge in one
So
way.
I think the dukedom would have been the money side of it. Okay. And obviously because he is the king's son, he's got to have some kind of title. So I think but I think it was also a money thing that he made sure his son had a good income.
Yeah. And he was like, hey, look, I had a surviving male heir. Mic drop.
Why do growing businesses love working in Slack? Let's ask Christy at RE Bikes.
Running things in Slack saves me so much time.
AI summaries save 97 minutes per week. What say you, Rox from Gosney?
Slack helps us build community, it helps us build connection.
Your partners, vendors and customers all in one place. Take us on home, Ashley from Caraway.
If we didn't have Slack tomorrow, I would explode.
Well, let's not let that happen. Visit slack.com/podcast to get 50% off Slack Business Plus.
He's like, mic drop.
Yeah. But I don't know. But I think, he could have tried to legitimize him. Would he have then pursued Jane?
Right.
I think he probably would, because I think even if he's legitimized him, he's still not born in wedlock.
Right.
So I think Henry would have known that there's always going to be people against him, especially when you've got Mary, because Mary was born in wedlock. So if you're faced with who do we support when Henry VIII dies? Do we support Henry Fitzroy or do we support Mary the First?
Right.
That's not easy. I think many would probably automatically think support the male.
Yeah.
But then I think some of the nobility would have been feeling, well, no, because, Mary was actually born in wedlock. He wasn't. That's a difficult one.
I know. I know. It is difficult because there are so many variables that go into it. And I also think about if it was Henry VIII's plan to make Fitzroy legitimate, would he have still married her to marry Howard? The Duke of
I
Norfolk.
suppose there's two sides to that. You could say, would Henry have wanted a Howard on the throne?
Yeah.
But then he himself did the same thing. So
yeah.
I suppose in a way, he can't have been that bothered about Howard being a queen, but he would have also been aware that if Mary did become queen, that means he himself is no longer around.
Yes.
So who is going to be the power behind the throne?
Oh my God.
You would hope Henry Fitzroy would stand on his own 2 feet, but the Norfolks, let's face it, they're powerful. They had a lot of money. So would they have tried to, I don't know, get whatever they wanted behind the scenes? Would they have been pushing buttons and
yeah.
If especially for Norfolk, his daughter is the queen.
Think about Henry Howard, Earl of Surrey, and what a pain he would have been.
Yeah.
They would have been so much worse than the Seymour brothers. Can I just say that? I just feel like it would have been so bad for everybody.
I think it's a good question, though. Would Henry have done that if he'd have legitimized him? And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'd want the Howards having that much power when he was gone. Because obviously when he was there, he could deal with it. He was the king.
Yeah.
But leaving your son essentially at their mercy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and when we look at who Henry VIII was trying to align his son Edward with, he was going big. He wasn't going local nobility. He was like, well, let's look at Scotland and let's look at France. Let's look at these other places that are going to bring alliances, not let's keep it in the country.
Yeah.
So,
and I think, Henry knew the importance of alliances. I don't think there's any denying that. So I think if he was legitimized, there's a possibility that he would have looked elsewhere for his son.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I love how you say Henry knew the importance of alliances, and then over half of his wives were English.
Yeah, not for himself, but for other people.
Yeah, he's like, this
Although,
doesn't
to be
apply.
fair, you could argue he didn't really care because, look at Mary, she just married his best friend. So
Yeah, that's right. Well, really, after he executed his second wife, I think his options abroad were diminished greatly. Everybody was like, no, that's a hard pass. Thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you. I don't want to marry someone who chops their wife's head
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, exactly. See, now I want to go into that whole thing, but that's a different episode because we're talking about historical deaths of heirs.
We will save that for another one.
Yeah, but imagine if Henry Fitzroy had been made legitimate, we'd have another Henry. Of course, another Henry.
Yeah, but it does make you wonder, would he have still pursued Jane? And I think Well, I don't know, because if Fitzroy was legitimized, would he have gone for Anne?
Right.
And I think if you don't go for Anne, then you don't go for Jane. You've only got Catherine.
Yeah. And let's be real, too. I mean, it's always been said that Anne was behind the Fitzroy, Mary Howard marriage, too.
I think there would have been absolute chaos from Catherine if he legitimized Henry Fitzroy, because obviously Catherine, quite rightfully, was very much of the opinion that there is no reason why my daughter cannot be queen.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, somebody did comment, I was just thinking about this. Somebody did comment, what if Charles V had invaded England during the Great Matter? What would that have looked like? So we have to keep that in our pocket maybe for a future episode.
Yes.
The look in your eyes, you look terrified.
I quite like the sound of that one.
At first you look terrified by it, oh, I don't even know where to begin with this.
Yeah, I think it's a big what if.
Yeah.
But yeah, a good one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we'll do that one.
I love that people are already thinking about this after we did, I mean, granted, we did the What If Marriage Edition before we started Off the Record, but we can still count that as one of them, right? We can still kind of count that as one of our episodes. So people are going back to that one and going back to the Anne Boleyn one. And now I just love this, that everybody's coming with ideas of other ones. Keep these ideas coming, because it helps us. I mean, we both have ideas, but eventually we're going to run out of ideas.
And I think other people have different tangents as well.
Yes.
So when we go off on a tangent, other people might have a different thought. So yeah, it's good.
I've had so much fun talking about this. Deaths or non-deaths of possible heirs.
I shouldn't say it's been a fun one, should I, when we've been talking about death?
No, it's okay to say it's fun. We're
wrong word.
Don't worry, I know how people will pick you apart by saying one wrong thing. So it's okay, just go with it. Just own it and be like, yes, I said that.
Well, I did. It's recorded. I did say it.
It is. You're on
right now.
Oh my goodness. Well, Amy, thank you so much again for joining me for Off the Record. We're gonna have to think about what we're gonna do next Sunday. That's going to be able to compete with these, because these have been so much fun.
And then next week we can have a look at what people have thought about there's probably been about 10 questions for people to think about today. So see what people have said.
We should have said at the beginning, and maybe at the beginning of every What If episode, we should start prefacing, have a notepad nearby to make notes and questions that you have or ideas that you have, because I think it's inevitable when listening to this that things are going to pop into your head that we're not thinking of.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, Amy.
And we want to know. We want to know what we're thinking.
Please. That to me, that's the most fun part of doing a podcast, is the interaction with the people who listen. So,
yes. Yeah.
So this has been fun. I have enjoyed this conversation with you, and I can't wait to see you again next week.
When we will not be talking of popping of clogs next week.
Oh my gosh. Until next time, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Tudors, Dynasty, and Beyond. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a moment to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening so you never miss a new release. And if you loved it, leave a quick review. It helps more history lovers find the show. Want to support the podcast and get bonus content? Head to patreon.com/tudorsdynasty. You can also find the link in the show notes of this episode. Join the conversation with Rebecca on social media at Tudors Dynasty. Until
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du Norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
next time.